So now what we can do is we can put the configurations in a global file so that for each and every test file we don't want to put these configurations. So I'll put this configuration inside of test.js. So that is the file which will be present in the root folder, and we can import those. Yes, we can import those the enzyme and the enzyme adapter, and here it is no more needed. Now if you see the test case will get passed because it takes these configuration from the global file, so we don't want to write these configuration for each and every test file. So now we have you know refactored it by moving the configurations code. Now we can group these test cases now. Like say for example, if the application would be having a lot of functionalities, so for better understanding, we can put those functionality related test cases in a single group. So we have a describe method that's its two arguments. One is the name application, and the other one will be a function which runs the test cases. And I'll put those test cases into describe method and one test case outside the describe method for understanding like what it is and how it has been used. So now if you run the test, you can see the grouping right here, application will render on mount. And that has two test cases and one test case is outside the describe method. So that is this one. So yeah, it will be for better understanding and grouping some functionalities. So that's about describe, and you have some utilities like called skip only, and also like to do we have like we have dot skip. So if you add for a skip over here, now if you see that here once test cases was skipped, so that is this one. It skips one test case, and this skip applies for describe as well. So if you do skip or add skip over for describe method, so now two test cases was kept because the describe method have two test cases which will be skipped now. And the same for only. Now if you add only here, this two test cases will run and this test case will get skipped. Yeah. Now you can see the test cases now. So that's all about like only and skip. It applies for both describe and for each test methods test cases. There is one more thing called to do. So test dot to do it applies only for test. It doesn't apply for describe method. So say for example, if you want to write the test case later but not now, and because in order not to forget that, you can add to do here. So it will be skipped to be written later. This is also skipped. But because we have only here, it is not showing the to do. If you because that test case is only run because it the just doesn't know that this test case needs to be skipped because it runs only one the described test cases. So now if you see here, there is a to do one action item that needs to be done later. So this is for better understanding and better for remember to remember later for the developers. So this is all about skip only and to do. Now what we can do? Now we can check the properties of a element or like or the component. Let's say you want to test these properties because for components and the elements, something it is really needed for the element that needs not to be like removed or like by by mistakenly the other developers can remove them. So by we can test these properties actually, like say for example, if you can just view this test case because it's not needed because it's already present in the describe method. Check the properties, the increment button. So now we are getting a wrapper, and but we are not getting count here. We want the increment button here. Increment button. Here test app. We want to add. It's already there. App dot increment. So now we get the element increment, but we want to check the props here. Props, and we can check the class as of now. So now, if you see, run the test, you can see that it received this, and but we are expecting zero. So now, if you run the test case again, now it will pass. So this, likewise, you can test whatever the properties you need actually in the element or like in a component, whatever. Right? So now all the test cases are passing. Okay, and we check the properties and we tested the properties, and you can also if you want to test any other properties for data testing. But this, so, but now it failed because for this what you can, because it has hyphen inside. But for this, what you can do is like you can test, you can put it the property inside the props, and now if you see what it expects, data test app dot increment. So it should expect app dot increment. But now all that is also wrong. But now we want to check only one property here. So we need to add prop. Yes, now it is passing. Likewise, you can test whatever the properties you need. Now let's check the props inside each and every component. You'll be having prop types validations, right? For each and every component you have. Say for example, we have one component called list. We have the component returns a simple returns a simple div as of now, and we have a functional component ready. But say for example, if you're adding that list component here, I mean app component, and you're sending some props, like say for example, if you're sending the count over there, and we are getting the count, but the count now it will be of number actually. So what we can do? So let's add a map to iterate it. So let's use the the rest of spread operator, and create an array of counter, like how many count we are having. We can create an array and use the map method now. So now we can iterate by using map, and you'll get the item or and the index actually. So you can return that. Maybe we can create an ordered list. And we can create a list. So return, we're going to return the list element, and we are going to print the index. So now it's failing to check the property. This is not defined. Of course, we want to import the list. Maybe we'll import it. The test case is a password, but we want to test that in the application level. Let's see whether it is not showing the list. So what error we made? So it sets the count property. We are pausing the count in the list component. We're getting the count, and we are making array of list. Okay, and we did a small mistake here. We want to complete this. For that, we can remove this one. So, okay, dot map, and now some yeah, I need to add a key prop actually. So each and every, I mean, if we had a iteration level means we want to add a key property. So it can be the same item or index. So it should be individual. It should not be like duplicated. So now, yes, we got this. We're going to increment it, we're going to decrement it, decrement. Yeah, that's fine. But now what we're going to test is like the prop types. So before that, we want to install prop types. npm install see prop types. So let's install the prop types. So for validating the property, the props which we're getting for the inside the functional component. Now it installed the prop types. Let's import it. Import prop types from prop types. Okay, and let's add it for the component level. Like list prop types checked, and the props we're getting is the counter. So it should be prop types dot. It should be an integer, right? So it should be a number. So we added now the prop types for this functional component. So now just run this. Let's see if it's throwing an error. Yeah, the app is running fine, and the build is also happening nice. Now let's test this prop types. So for that, you want to install set prop types. There is one package. So an error. So because in order to work for the legacy versions for also legacy versions, I mean for the prop types, we want to add this legacy pure dependencies while installing it. So let's add this one and try to install it. Now it installed now. So let's add a test case for it. So let's create a file test.test.js. So let's copy this. So let's add the list component, which is inside list slash list, and let's import shallow and react and have the setup a common method which will return a wrapper. Now we want to check the prop types or properties or the props which we're going to get the functional component. Check the props. Now we don't want that line. Now just we can import, import set prop types. Prop types. So in order to test the prop types, what we want to do is we want to import or render the list component first of all. Then here create a constant for the prop type here, somewhat whatever the name you need. And this actually want to import as prop types, check prop types. And now, what component you need? You need the list component. What the proper type, the prop types, what we added in the component. And then the prop types you need to test. So that is a count, which should be, which is an object actually. So it should be an integer. But now, for failing purpose, we can add a boolean. And what we're going to check is that the prop we are going to check. And the last one is the name of the component, test dot name. Now let's check the. It should be like undefined because if it is success, then it should be defined. If it is like giving any error, then it should not be undefined. Right? So now let's see if it is running. One is failed actually. So what is failing here is import. It's failing on the import. So it should be one level inside. Now let's see. It's failing shallow because because props. Okay. The error is that we imported the functional component, like this. But it actually wants to be imported as a component. So now, if we import the list component, now if you see the test case, it actually shows that the invalid drop count of type boolean supplied to this expected number. So we supplied boolean, so it is throwing an error now. Right? The test case is failing. But if it is say an integer, now the test cases will be passed. Yeah, this is how we want to do the prop types validations, or like to test the prop type validations for a functional component, or like for class components, whatever it is.